At 10:15 p.m. on the evening of May 18th, 2012, surveillance cameras mounted above the entrance of Atmosphere Bar in Lafayette captured what appeared to be an ordinary Friday night. 21-year-old Mickey Shunick, blonde hair, bright smile, walked through the doors with her close friend Brett Lee Wilson, laughing and chatting as they settled in for what should have been just another weekend outing. The grainy footage shows her ordering drinks, leaning against the bar, completely unaware. At first glance, everything looks perfectly normal. Two friends, a couple of beers, casual conversation. But what these cameras failed to capture in the hours that followed would haunt an entire community and spark one of Louisiana's most desperate search efforts. Because hidden within this seemingly innocent CCTV footage is a disturbing secret, this would be the last time 21-year-old Mickey Shunick was ever seen alive.
If you made a mistake and you accidentally picked her up or something, and you're just scared, I mean, it's okay. We won't say anything. Just call the tip line and drop her off anywhere, and we'll find her. And please don't hurt her.
Mickey Shunick was not the type to vanish without a word. A responsible anthropology student on the verge of graduating from the University of Louisiana, she picked up odd jobs here and there, loved attending concerts, and spent countless hours with friends. But above all else, Mickey was absolutely obsessed with biking. She rode everywhere, all the time. Her bicycle wasn't just transportation, it was her identity, her freedom, her way of navigating the world around her. That warm spring Friday evening started like any other. Mickey was getting ready to meet up with friends and head to a concert. She hadn't planned on staying out late. After all, the next day was enormous for the Shunick family. Her younger brother Zach was graduating from high school, and Mickey would never miss something that important. The entire family knew that about her. If Mickey said she was coming home, she always came home. If she promised she wouldn't be late, she never was. At 10:15 p.m., Mickey and her classmate Brett Lee Wilson arrived at Atmosphere, a local bar in downtown Lafayette. The surveillance footage from that evening tells a simple story: two friends enjoying a casual night out. For the next 2.5 hours, the cameras captured them standing by the bar, talking, laughing, ordering a couple of beers each. There were no fights, no arguments, no warning signs whatsoever. Just a typical lively Friday evening between friends who clearly enjoyed each other's company. At precisely midnight, the footage shows Mickey and Brett Lee quietly leaving the bar together. They don't appear intoxicated. They're not holding hands. Just two ordinary friends wrapping up an ordinary night. What happens next? Nobody could have expected. Early on the morning of May 19th, the entire Shunick family was rushing around the house, getting ready for Zach's graduation ceremony. Nancy Shunick assumed her daughter was simply sleeping in after her night out with friends. Yet when she opened Mickey's bedroom door, the room was empty. The bed hadn't been slept in. Mickey's phone was nowhere to be found. Confusion set in immediately. Mickey's older sister Charlie tried to calm everyone down, suggesting that Mickey had probably crashed at a friend's place and would walk through the door any minute. "We couldn't get in touch with her," Charlie later recalled. "It was going straight to voicemail. I remember I texted her, I was like, 'You're being an idiot. You need to wake up and get home so we can go to Zach's graduation.'" But as the ceremony went on, one thing became painfully clear. Mickey never showed up to her brother's graduation. When the family returned home afterward, there was still no sign of her. 18 hours had already passed since they'd last seen Mickey. Every call to her phone went straight to voicemail, which only deepened their panic. The family began dialing every friend and acquaintance who came to mind. One girl mentioned that the night before, Mickey had been out with Brett Lee Wilson. They contacted him immediately. Bradley told them he had no idea where Mickey could be. According to him, at around 1 a.m., she got on her bike and headed home. That was the last time he saw her. After speaking with Mickey's friend, the family called the police, not wanting to waste any time. While officers made their way to the house, police instructed them to start calling every hospital in the area. Nancy Shunick called every medical facility she could find, asking whether they had admitted an injured cyclist or a confused young woman who couldn't remember her name. Meanwhile, Mickey's father Tom set out to retrace the route his daughter would have taken home, but he found nothing. No bike, no belongings, no signs of an accident. Nancy's search through the hospitals turned up absolutely no information. A short time later, Detective Stephen Baja arrived at the house. He would go on to lead the search for Mickey. "I was quickly able to see that this was not a common thing that occurred," Detective Baja later explained, "and that they were extremely worried about her. The big thing was that she missed her brother's high school graduation. That was something she was supposed to go to, and she just didn't show up. The first thing investigators did was turn their attention to Brett Lee Wilson, the last person known to have seen Mickey alive. In cases involving a male and female relationship, detectives wanted to make sure there weren't any romantic complications between them, that it wasn't a domestic issue, or that possibly Bradley had made an advance toward her and she turned him down. When the police arrived to question him, Brett Lee grew visibly nervous, an obvious reaction that only deepened the detective's suspicions. But during questioning, he denied any involvement in Mickey's disappearance, as well as any romantic relationship with her. His version of events didn't raise immediate red flags. He said they started the evening at a small bar, then he took Mickey's bike back to his place. After that, they got into his car and drove to a restaurant to grab some food. Later, they returned to his home and hung out for a while. Finally, Mickey got on her bike and left. That was the last time he saw her. The police asked if Brett Lee had a neighbor or a friend who could vouch for his story, but there was no one. As a result, forensic experts were called in to examine Brett Lee's house. They searched for anything that could link Bradley to Mickey's disappearance, broken objects, bloodstains, but found nothing. Everything appeared normal, so the police began meticulously verifying every detail of his story, starting with the bar he claimed they had gone to at 10:15 p.m. Upon arrival at Atmosphere, investigators immediately discovered surveillance cameras that would reveal exactly what had happened that night. By now, 36 hours had passed since Mickey Shunick vanished, and Brett Lee Wilson, her closest friend, remained the sole suspect. Fortunately, the bar was equipped with numerous surveillance cameras, and access to the footage was granted immediately. According to Brett Lee, he and Mickey arrived at the bar around 10:15 p.m. The cameras confirmed this. The footage showed nothing unusual. The friends stood calmly by the bar, talking and laughing. After 2.5 hours of footage, there was no cause for concern. No fights, no arguments, just a typical lively evening. Mickey and Brett Lee each had a couple of beers and then quietly left the bar at midnight. They didn't appear intoxicated and weren't holding hands, just ordinary friends. The first part of Brett Lee Wilson's story checked out. The next step was to verify their visit to the Taco Bell where they reportedly went to grab a bite. Checking Mickey's card transactions revealed that the purchase was made through the Taco Bell drive-thru window. The restaurant quickly handed over all the footage from their cameras to the police. And there it is, a Chevrolet Cavalier pulling up. At first, it was hard to make out who was driving, but after watching the video several times, it became clear that Bradley was behind the wheel. Identifying the passenger, however, proved impossible. Bradley paid with Mickey's card and handed the food bag to the person sitting beside him. No matter how many times the officers replayed the footage, they couldn't definitively identify the passenger. It could have been Mickey, or maybe not. To get to the bottom of it, the police still had one last part of the story to verify. Brett Lee said that Mickey left his house a little bit before 2 in the morning, riding her bicycle, and he said that was the last time he had seen her. Brett Lee also mentioned that the first part of Mickey's route home passed through a residential neighborhood, but this time she had taken a different road. Officers went to the area Bradley described but found not a single surveillance camera to verify his claim. 2 days had passed since Mickey Shunick vanished, yet the investigation remained at a standstill. Detective Stephen Baha had no choice but to go back to square one in his investigation. It was entirely possible that after leaving Bradley, Mickey hadn't headed home at all. The search area needed to be expanded. The police department posted a request on their Facebook page, asking residents to report any private surveillance cameras in the neighborhood where Mickey lived. Shortly after, investigators received over 300 video recordings from individuals and businesses, allowing them to piece together a broader picture of the city. The officers reviewed countless hours of footage, and by the 5th day of the investigation, footage from the surveillance cameras on a local bank building finally caught their attention, though they didn't hold out much hope. The recording was infrared, blurry, and grainy, but at 1 a.m., the silhouette of a cyclist became clearly visible. The same figure appeared again on cameras covering the west side of the bank, then on the next camera facing east. They noticed an important detail: light-colored hair. But was it really Mickey Shunick? That very day, the police called in Mickey's family to help confirm the identity captured on the footage. They brought Charlie and Nancy in and showed them a video from more or less a block or two from where Mickey left Bradley's house. I remember looking at them, being like, "That's absolutely my sister," Charlie recalled. "If it's your family member, someone you love, you can tell it's them from their mannerisms. So we know she was safe. We know that she got out of Brett Lee's neighborhood." That was kind of an uplifting moment. Bradley Wilson's account held up, and he was removed from the list of suspects. But with no one else to focus on and no clear leads, the detectives were left with little choice but to search for any cameras that might have caught a glimpse of Mickey. The last time the police saw her on video, she was riding past Mid-South Bank. Following her presumed route, they shifted their focus to cameras mounted on the City Hall building, which overlooked the Circle K convenience store. The investigators fast-forwarded through the footage to a specific moment. And there she was, Mickey, riding her bike. Now the police had video from two separate locations, both confirming that the girl was indeed heading home. The officers continued their search along the route, and 170 yards from the Circle K store, footage from cameras mounted on a local attorney's office once again showed Mickey riding her bike. About 400 yards further along, she was expected to pass a camera on the City Hall building. But after reviewing several minutes of footage, Mickey never appeared. No other cameras captured her after that point. One moment she was riding home, and just 400 yards later, she vanished. That could only mean one thing: something happened to her along St. Landry Street, in that short stretch. That same evening, officers and volunteers were called in to comb through St. Landry Street, searching for any physical evidence, part of the bike, a vehicle, or tire marks on the asphalt. With a break in the rain Monday night, dozens fanned out across the field along West Congress Street, looking for clues.
I don't know her, but I mean, I have a daughter. If it was my daughter, I don't know what I would do.
I'm teaching her that this is the right thing to do. If someone is missing, this is our community, this is our family, and this is what we need to do. Go out and look for this girl.
But in the end, nothing suspicious was found. From that moment, the police began to suspect that Mickey might have been abducted. 7 days had already passed since Mickey's disappearance. Everybody is on your side, Nancy Shunick told reporters. The main thing that keeps you going is the community support. Everybody's behind you. Everybody wants to find her. Everybody wants to find who did this. Mickey's disappearance quickly became the city's top story. Family, friends, and concerned citizens sprang into action. The community divided into groups, methodically scouring the city, hoping to find any trace of her.
If you made a mistake and you accidentally picked her up or something, and you're just scared, I mean, it's okay. We won't say anything. Just call the tip line and drop her off anywhere, and we'll find her. And please don't hurt her.
Nancy added, her voice breaking, and then go home and fall apart. Detectives went back to the footage with fresh eyes, not looking for the cyclist anymore, but for any clue that might point them in the right direction. Only a few vehicles appeared on the cameras in that area. By running the plates, investigators quickly identified two drivers who were simply passing through or heading to work. But the third vehicle, a white Chevy Z71 pickup, stood out. They had no information on it. At first, the truck was seen driving in the middle lane of a 4-lane road, which suggested the driver had planned to continue straight. But once Mickey started to cross the street, the pickup suddenly turned and began following her. Moments later, the truck pulled ahead of her, and by the time they reached the local attorney's office, it was already driving in front of her. Mickey slipped out of frame in the lower right corner. And after that, she was nowhere to be seen. In the state of Louisiana, more than 3,000 white pickup trucks of that model were registered, and despite the slim chances of tracing this particular vehicle, it was the only lead investigators had. The last video shows him ahead of her, and then it shows her pass by. Detective Baja explained. That's the last point that she's on video. We believe at that point that he continued on, found an area where there were no lights, there were no houses or businesses or witnesses. The driver of the white Chevy Z71 became their primary suspect. But what investigators didn't know yet was that this man had already killed before, and Mickey Shunick wouldn't be his last victim. But before police could locate the driver, 30 miles away, an ominous discovery emerged. On May 26, 2012, in Whiskey Bay, located deep within the Atchafalaya Basin, one of the largest swamps in the region, a local fisherman noticed a bicycle handlebar sticking out near the shoreline and immediately called the police. When crime scene investigators arrived, they identified it. It belonged to Mickey Shunick. Detective Baja called me and my dad to the police station, Charlie remembered. He looks at me. He goes, I don't want you to freak out, but we think we found her bike. There's some damage to it. I needed to identify it, and they showed us the bicycle, and I almost passed out. It was definitely her bike. After examining the bicycle, experts noticed damage on the rear wheel, clear evidence of a collision with a vehicle. They were also able to determine that the height of the damage matched the bumper level of a Chevy Z71, further reinforcing the connection between the unidentified pickup and the missing girl. Police also considered that if the bike had been dumped in such a remote area, it was quite possible the body might be there as well. But when divers searched the water, they found nothing. The next day, right on the Louisiana-Texas border, police discovered a Chevrolet Z71 that had been abandoned and burned. The license plates had survived the flames, and thanks to that, detectives were able to identify the driver and his home address. It turned out that law enforcement already knew this man. Brandon Scott Lavergne had been convicted back in 2000 and sentenced to 10 years in prison for assault. Investigators also learned that the day after Mickey went missing, Lavergne showed up at a hospital with multiple stab wounds, claiming he had been attacked by robbers at a gas station. Once we obtained Brandon Lavergne's name and we started looking into his past and looking into his actions, Detective Baja said, everything fell into place. Remember that white pickup truck caught on camera? Well, what experts found on Mickey's bicycle would confirm everyone's worst fears. It was his pickup that had been seen following Mickey. Then he turned up at a hospital with stab wounds. And shortly after, the same truck was found burned on the Texas border. Based on these findings and other evidence gathered by the department, detectives issued a warrant for Brandon Lavergne's arrest on serious felony charges with aggravating circumstances. Brandon was brought into the station, and the interrogation began.
Yeah, nervous, right? No, don't worry. You need to be, Brandon. Brandon. There is a list of issues, okay, we need to address regarding the disappearance of Mickey Shunick.
No, no, bro. That's bull. I didn't have nothing to do with that girl's freaking disappearance. No, bro. I want to turn it, and this over with. No. Oh, God.
Detectives and Mickey Shunick's family already had a good idea of what had happened. They just needed to find the body. Lavergne refused to talk at first, but then an offer came from the district attorney's office. In exchange for his cooperation, he would reveal where the girl was and give a detailed account of that night in return. Mickey's family agreed not to pursue seeking the maximum sentence. Both sides accepted the deal. I mean, we had to, Charlie explained. We had to know what happened. Otherwise, you're forever just wondering. The man admitted to burying her in an old, abandoned cemetery in a hole about 12 inches deep.
We have a small community cemetery that how deep is she buried? Not that deep, out through the Dale engines. So I couldn't get a little dig that they'd be buried. She completely covered? Yeah, was there on top?
The investigation was officially closed. Mickey Shunick was no longer considered a missing person. According to Lavergne, he had been driving home when he spotted the young girl on her bike. Feeling reckless, he decided to chase her. On the dimly lit St. Landry Street, he caught up with her. Mickey fell and lost consciousness, allowing him to easily drag her into his vehicle. Shortly after, she regained consciousness and sprayed him with pepper spray. Then she found a knife in the glove compartment and managed to stab her kidnapper several times in the back. But in the struggle, Lavergne grabbed the knife back and struck her in the chest. At that moment, he thought she was already dead. When the car reached an open field, Mickey regained consciousness and tried to run. The attacker then pulled out a gun and fired twice. Brandon Scott Lavergne was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I missed talking to her, Charlie said, her voice trembling. She always had something funny to say. At the time she disappeared, all her friends were in school, and now they're teaching and counseling and doing other things. And she's forever 21. Without the surveillance footage showing the white pickup truck chasing the cyclist, the chain of clues might have gone unnoticed. But in many ways, Mickey helped solve her own case. Had Brandon not been injured, he wouldn't have gone to the hospital, nor felt the need to destroy evidence and burn the pickup. In the end, it was Mickey Shunick's courage and fight that forced him into mistakes that exposed him. Actually, finding out how she died was really bad, Charlie reflected. But at the same time, she kicked his ass. She beat him up. She fought back. She almost killed him. She did everything she should have done. Mickey Shunick's final act of defiance became her lasting legacy, a testament to her strength, her will to survive, and her refusal to go quietly into the darkness. Though her life was tragically cut short on that warm spring night in Lafayette, her fight ensured that her killer would never hurt anyone else again.